let's head now, Ryan, to the season finale. Episode 10 of Drive to Survive, Season 4, the finale, Ryan. Hard Racing is the title. So you got Michael Masi got his title on this last episode.
Yeah, so I didn't have a lot of notes for this episode because it was literally just a rehash of...
If you want to hear about the race, go listen to our Abu Dhabi Grand recap from last season.
Yeah, but one thing I did have that was interesting was... It always goes back to Yuki. So I'm getting the sense from some of the stuff we've seen all season of this season of Drive to Survive, all the other drivers love Yuki on a personal level.
Yeah, because he's a funny guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all love him. Like Carlos Sainz was like dapping him up after the race and he was like, Yuki, what'd you qualify?
Yeah, he's like, how'd you do, man? What'd you do?
Yeah. Like, he was like, you were fast today, man.
Yeah.
Like they love him. He's like everyone's son in the paddock.
He's everyone's little pet. Their little pet project.
Because earlier in the season when he arrives to Bahrain for the first race, even Pierre Gasly's like, oh, look at Yuki, man, here he comes. And then he just goes, man, he's awesome.
Yeah. And the other thing, Ryan, there was another instance here of a fan where Mazepin was walking all the way down to the Haas garage, and you had some British fan hanging over in the Paddock Club or something asking him to wreck Hamilton.
Yeah.
So again, you have fans asking random ass drivers, by the way, actually, I was going to say, by the way, good luck from the back of the grid, but Mazepin was the blue flag king last season.
Yeah.
So he would have definitely had a chance to wreck him.
Mazepin blocked Hamilton multiple times last year.
Yeah. The other epic bit in this finale, Ryan, that I loved, when you had Christian Horner and it was Red Bull and AlphaTauri, all the guys together, all the team, the mechanics, everybody, and they were having like their Christmas party because it was their end of season party before the final race, and Max gave a motivational speech to the team and all that stuff before the race weekend. Christian Horner, of course, doing the go-to dad joke / anytime you're with someone who speaks another language, you always make the joke where Horner goes, hey, did you guys know that Checo means big dick in Mexican? That's always the joke that any dad or any person who speaks another language, you always make a dick joke or teach someone about that.
Well, that goes back to what I was saying, that like both Christian Horner and Toto Wolff just have like these circle jerks of yes men on their side at all times, and that's why they're constantly validated to make these shitty jokes and shitty quips.
Yeah, so little do we know, Checo means big dick.
Yeah.
You learn a new nickname derivation every day.
I wrote this note down because I just could not let this slide. So at some point in this episode, Max is talking about like, the implications of this last race and them going into a tide and everything. And Max called himself the young gun. He called himself the young gun. Baby. And I'm sitting on my couch laughing my ass off. I'm like, what a fucking loser.
Right.
Who calls themselves
You can't give yourself a nickname.
Gun. What are you doing? Yeah. Your own writing for yourself?
You can't give yourself a nickname. That's a no-fly zone for sure.
But like, turn it down a little bit, Max. Turn it down.
So the only real notes I wanted to touch on for this, because we all know how the race ended and what happened in the race. The lights edit for the race when the lights were going on to start this race was epic on this final episode. Like, they definitely do a great job of restirring the emotions from the previous season in Drive to Survive. Like, you could feel it again, like all like the excitement, wondering what the hell was about to happen. Max on pole, Hamilton right behind him on the front row, and the lights edit was so good.
All the footage from Toto in the garage during the race was riveting.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, riveting.
The camera behind him where he's just pacing, can't sit down.
Because it's all the same stuff we had already seen on the broadcast.
With more context,
but once you get that camera in the garage, though, and it's all high def and it's deep depth of field and very artsy, and it feels like we're sneaking into the garage, and that's when you realize how emotional he was in that fucking garage.
Oh, I mean,
during the race,
it was winner take all. Remember, we were tied on points for the drivers' championship.
The guy couldn't stay in his fucking chair for more than 2 seconds. He was constantly getting up, pacing back and forth, taking the headset off, putting it back on, yelling at the fucking camera, yelling at Michael Masi.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, it was nuts. That race was nuts.
So the other camera work that I liked in this episode, Ryan, when you had the Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc 3 wide action at the beginning of the race, they did great camera work in that, going between visor cameras and onboards and broadcast shots, and they just did a great job of showing you that awesome battle. And then the other thing, and I think we've noticed it more this year with the visor cam and with onboard shots, you saw it in this episode when Checo was battling Hamilton, trying to hold him up when they got on the radio. We all remember when Hamilton had like a 9-second advantage on Max and Checo was in the lead, and they said, you need to hold Hamilton up. Checo working the mirrors like a madman, you know, like, and just how awesome that battle was.
Yeah, Checo did an amazing job. I mean, everyone focuses on the way the end of the race went down, but all those little things that even allowed us to get to that point was mostly Checo's hard work and the teamwork between him and Max, where Checo holds up Hamilton and then he slipstreams Max to get up in there. You know, you forget about all those little wrinkles that even made it possible for Max to even battle Lewis at the end.
Right. And here was my takeaway, maybe seeing it with fresh eyes again after being away from that finale. And I know we covered all these things in our Abu Dhabi Grand recap.
Yeah.
But what I think maybe stood out to me in re-seeing it, rewatching that final race from the Drive to Survive edit was the curious thing is how Michael Masi's whole like modus operandi changed in that race, because anytime there was a car on track all season, we went to red flag like immediately. Remember how few races had safety cars because he was just going straight to red flags? But then in this finale, he went safety car, not red flag when you had Latifi out there. He could have easily gone red flag like he's done most of the season.
Right.
Everyone gets on new tires and you restart the race from a standing start. But he did the safety car, and then you had all the puzzling safety lap cars can't overtake. Now only lap cars between the first two can overtake. You know, it was just so he completely, maybe in the moment, he just panicked and just completely made up different rules and acted differently than they had all season.
Yes,
you know?
he certainly made some poor decisions and some wrong decisions on how to end that race. But I mean,
it's hard. I think it's always hard to say right, wrong, but like he just acted very differently in that final race. You know?
Yeah, he definitely made some wrong decisions. I mean, he basically broke the rule book, even though he's allowed to do that. He broke the rule book. But to me, it's just a case of both Toto Wolff and Christian Horner broke him. They broke that man by the end of that season and by the end of that race.
Yeah. I mean, you saw again the pressure of the radio. We saw more and more of Horner getting on the radio going, what's going on here? You know, like
the entire race, both Christian and Toto are just trying
Michael,
they're trying to puppeteer him. The entire time they're telling him what decision he should be making.
Right.
Ridiculous ones too.
For sure.
So they fucking broke that man.
And Ryan.
And now he's been demoted.
Yeah. He's gone. He's somewhere in a broom closet, a janitor's closet. So I loved, Ryan, the finale, because in season 3, remember, it opened up with, I think it was season 3 that opened up with Toto giving like the Star Wars. He had like the Darth Vader feel to him, and he's giving the big speech of like, we'll crush them, you know?
Right.
And then this season, episode 10 ends with evil turtleneck Toto, where he's got the black turtleneck on, and he's just talking about how we're just going to kick their asses next year.
Yeah, we got Darth Toto to end the season, and he's like, everyone. The reporter says, "Do you think Red Bull will have a bigger target on their back next season?" And Toto's like, "Everyone has a target on their back next season."
Right? Do you think that they went in a wardrobe and said you have to wear a black turtleneck for evil Toto to end this season?
I think Toto was just channeling his feelings at that point in his life after having the Drivers' Championship ripped away from them.
Yeah, because you always know who the badass evil boss is. It's the guy in the black turtleneck.
Yeah, and it's not going so well so far.
Yeah, those were some hollow words at the end of the finale based on the start to season.
You had Lewis
this season.
Yeah, you had Lewis saying like, "You ain't seen nothing yet," and then you have Toto saying, "Everyone has a target on their backs."
Yeah,
and the car is a mess right now. They've got to figure it out.
Yeah, but all in all, Ryan, that wraps up the second half of Drive to Survive season 4. Obviously, we enjoyed it.
Let's just give our review of the whole season real quick. So, I enjoyed it. I will always enjoy Drive to Survive. I'm not one of these people that gets a rise out of complaining about every little thing. Is it a perfect show? No. Would I rank this one as one of the most entertaining seasons they've had? No. I think this was the least insightful of any of the seasons they've done. It felt more like a season review show than that good look behind the curtain that we've gotten in years past.
They were too focused because the best part, as you mentioned, of Drive to Survive seasons is that look behind the curtain, going back to drivers' families, drivers' homes, what they're doing in their free time. I'm with you. This season was so focused on like trying to crystallize and capture the battle for the drivers' championship and the press conferences between the principals and the other
Yeah, and there's just too much Christian Horner and Toto Wolff. Just way too much. They dominated.
I do love Toto Wolff ordering his breakfast, as I've mentioned it a million times.
That stuff's fine because that's a personal nugget. You got to look at what they're like in their personal life, what they are as a person, what they're like as a person. But there wasn't enough of that this season, in my opinion.
Yeah, but
this season felt like one of the old school F1 season review DVDs. Like, there were way too many episodes where once the episode finished, I was like, well, that episode told me nothing.
Yeah, and I'm worried that also I think more and more of the drivers don't want to participate. Fernando Alonso probably isn't because of his Amazon show.
Yeah, I mean,
Max has obviously done nothing but shit on Drive to Survive, and he'll never take part in it.
Right, and you're absolutely right. It feels like everyone's getting cagier in terms of how they treat Drive to Survive. They don't want to give them as much. Unless you're George Russell and you want to take your girlfriend out to dinner and bring a cameraman. Yeah,
the guys who are craving the attention will definitely try and make their way onto the show.
Yeah, so I think if I had to rank this one, this is season 4, it's either the worst or second worst one they've done.
Your favorite episode, yours was the Yuki episode?
Least interesting season. Yeah, the Yuki episode was my favorite because it was just pure comedy.
I will say this season did bring us a ton of ass jokes, fart jokes, poop jokes, porn jokes.
Porn jokes, yeah.
You had Pierre Gasly making porn jokes. You had Yuki making porn jokes.
Yep.
A lot of balls references. Jos Capito talking about grabbing, squeezing balls.
Toto
talking about balls in the dashboard.
Christian Horner talking about Toto's ass, sniffing his ass.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can't go wrong in my eyes if you're making all those kind of references in a show.
Oh, I was still entertained, but not as much by Drive to Survive standards.